What happens when Hollywood royalty meets real royalty on daytime television? You won't believe what unfolds when two powerful women clash in an explosive showdown that had viewers across America glued to their screens. Last night's episode of The Jennifer Hudson Show delivered the most shocking confrontation in daytime TV history, and the fallout is still sending shockwaves through the entertainment industry. Before we get into this incredible story, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below, because you're not going to believe what unfolds when Jennifer Hudson faces off against Meghan Markle in a battle that nobody saw coming. The tension was palpable from the moment Meghan Markle stepped onto the familiar Chicago set. What was supposed to be a promotional appearance for her latest Netflix project quickly transformed into television gold that no one could have predicted. Jennifer Hudson, known for her warm demeanor and genuine interviewing style, seemed unusually guarded as she welcomed the Duchess of Sussex to her show. "Welcome to the show, Meghan," Jennifer said with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "It's always interesting to have you here." The emphasis on interesting wasn't lost on anyone paying attention, and Meghan's expression immediately shifted from her practiced media smile to something more cautious. "Thank you for having me, Jennifer. I'm excited to be here," Meghan replied, but her voice carried an edge that suggested she was already on the defensive. The studio audience, usually warm and welcoming, seemed to sense the underlying tension as their applause felt more polite than enthusiastic. Jennifer wasted no time diving into territory that would prove to be explosive. "Let's talk about your recent projects. You've been quite vocal about your experiences and your truth, but some people are wondering about the timing of these revelations and whether they're always completely accurate." Meghan's posture stiffened visibly. "I'm sorry. What are you suggesting exactly?" Her trademark composed facade began to crack as she leaned forward slightly, her hands gripping the arms of her chair. "I'm not suggesting anything," Jennifer responded smoothly, her journalist instincts kicking in. "I'm simply noting that there have been some inconsistencies pointed out by various sources. For instance, your claims about certain conversations and events that others remember quite differently." The atmosphere in the studio grew thick with tension. Meghan's media training kicked in as she attempted to deflect. "Jennifer, I think we should focus on the positive work I'm doing now. My Netflix series is really about—" "But that's exactly what I'm talking about," Jennifer interrupted. "Something she rarely does with guests. You want to control the narrative, but journalism isn't about letting people tell only their preferred version of events. It's about getting to the truth." Meghan's eyes flashed dangerously. "Are you questioning my integrity?" "I'm questioning inconsistencies," Jennifer shot back without missing a beat. "There's a difference." The studio audience began to murmur among themselves, sensing they were witnessing something unprecedented. Jennifer Hudson, typically known for her supportive interviewing style, was showing a side of herself that few had ever seen. Her Chicago roots were showing, and she wasn't backing down. Meghan shifted tactics, attempting to regain control. "I find it disappointing that another successful woman of color would try to tear down someone who's simply trying to share her experiences and build something positive." Jennifer's expression hardened at what she clearly perceived as an attempt at emotional manipulation. "Don't you dare try to make this about race when it's about accountability." That's exactly the kind of deflection that people are tired of hearing. "Deflection?" Meghan's voice rose slightly, her composed mask slipping further. "I'm sharing my lived experiences, and you're sitting here attacking me for it." "I'm not attacking you," Jennifer replied firmly. "I'm doing what journalists do, asking hard questions. If you can't handle that, maybe you shouldn't be doing interviews." The tension in the room was now unbearable. Camera operators exchanged glances, unsure whether to keep rolling or cut away. The production team in the control booth was frantically deciding whether to go to commercial break, but the raw television gold unfolding before them kept them glued to their monitors. Meghan's voice took on a sharp edge that viewers had never heard before. "You know what, Jennifer? I came here expecting a professional conversation, not some tabloid-style interrogation from someone who should understand what it's like to be a woman in this industry." "Professional?" Jennifer laughed, but there was no humor in it. "What's professional about constantly playing the victim card every time someone asks you a legitimate question? What's professional about making claims that can't be verified and then hiding behind your title when people ask for proof?" The studio audience was now completely silent, watching this unprecedented confrontation unfold. Meghan's hands were visibly trembling with anger as she struggled to maintain her composure. "I think," Meghan said slowly, each word dripping with barely contained fury, "that you're jealous of the platform I've built and the influence I have. Not everyone can marry into relevance." The low blow hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Jennifer's expression went from professional skepticism to something far more dangerous. The comment about marrying into relevance had clearly struck a nerve, considering Jennifer's own journey from poverty to Academy Award winner through pure talent and determination. But what happened next would change everything. Jennifer Hudson's eyes went cold, and for a moment, the entire studio fell into an eerie silence that felt like the calm before a devastating storm. When she finally spoke, her voice was steady but carried the weight of years of hard-earned respect and dignity. "Marry into relevance?" Jennifer repeated slowly, letting each word sink in. "Let me tell you something about relevance, Meghan. I earned my Oscar by playing a woman who had the courage to tell the truth, no matter how painful it was. I didn't need a royal title or a famous husband to validate my worth." Meghan's face flushed, realizing she had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. "Jennifer, I didn't mean..." "No, you meant exactly what you said," Jennifer cut her off sharply. "And that tells me everything I need to know about who you really are, behind all the carefully crafted public relations campaigns and victim narratives." The studio audience was now completely transfixed, phones discreetly recording what they sensed was television history in the making. The energy in the room had shifted from uncomfortable tension to something far more explosive. Meghan attempted damage control, but her voice betrayed her panic. "Look, we're both strong women who've faced challenges. We should be supporting each other, not tearing each other down." "Support?" Jennifer's laugh was bitter and sharp. "You want support? Then stop making excuses every time someone holds you accountable. Stop hiding behind your trauma every time someone asks you a direct question. And stop expecting the world to treat you like royalty when you've spent years trashing the very institution that gave you that platform." "You don't know what I've been through," Meghan shot back, her composed facade completely crumbling now. "You have no idea what it's like to be scrutinized and attacked constantly." Jennifer leaned forward, her voice rising with genuine indignation. "I don't know what scrutiny feels like. I grew up on the south side of Chicago with nothing. I've been criticized for my weight, my voice, my choices, my relationships. The difference is, I didn't run to Oprah every time someone said something mean about me." The mention of Oprah hit like a lightning bolt. Meghan's expression went from defensive to furious in an instant. "How dare you minimize what I've experienced? You have no right." "I have every right to call out manipulation when I see it," Jennifer interrupted forcefully. "And that's exactly what this island..." You come on shows like this expecting softball questions and praise, and the moment someone treats you like any other public figure who needs to be held accountable, you play the victim card." Meghan stood up abruptly, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. The sudden movement caused several audience members to gasp audibly. "I don't have to sit here and listen to this attack disguised as journalism." "Sit down," Jennifer commanded with an authority that surprised everyone, including herself. "You came on my show, and we're going to finish this conversation like adults." "Adults?" Meghan's voice was now shaking with rage. "Adults don't ambush their guests with gotcha questions and personal attacks." Jennifer rose from her own chair, matching Meghan's energy. "Personal attacks? You're the one who just insulted my entire career and suggested I married into my success. Everything I've asked you tonight has been fair game for someone who's made millions selling their story to the highest bidder." The production team was now in complete chaos. The show's executive producer was frantically gesturing from behind the cameras, unsure whether to cut the feed or let this explosive moment continue. The raw authenticity of the confrontation was unlike anything daytime television had ever seen. Meghan's voice took on a threatening tone. "You're going to regret this, Jennifer. Do you have any idea who you're dealing with?" "Who I'm dealing with?" Jennifer's eyebrows shot up in disbelief. "Are you seriously threatening me on my own show? This is exactly what people are talking about when they say you've lost touch with reality." "I haven't lost touch with anything," Meghan snapped. "But you've clearly lost your mind if you think you can treat me like some nobody off the street." Jennifer's expression shifted to something resembling pity mixed with disgust. "And there at Island, the real Meghan Markle. Nobody off the street? Do you hear yourself right now?" Do you understand how entitled and out of touch you sound? The audience was now completely silent except for the occasional sharp intake of breath. This wasn't just a celebrity feud anymore, it was a complete character assassination happening in real time. And both women seemed past the point of caring about public relations or damage control. Meghan's hands were clenched into fists at her sides. I've built a brand worth hundreds of millions of dollars. I have influence that reaches across continents. I don't need validation from someone whose biggest claim to fame is winning an award over 15 years ago. The cruelty of the statement hit the studio like a physical blow. Jennifer's face went through a range of emotions: hurt, anger, and then something colder and more determined than anyone had ever seen from the typically warm television host. You know what, Meghan? Jennifer's voice was now deadly quiet, which somehow made it more intimidating than if she had been shouting. You're absolutely right about one thing. You don't need my validation, but you desperately need someone to tell you the truth, and clearly, no one in your circle has the courage to do it. Meghan took a step toward Jennifer, her body language aggressive. What truth is that? Jennifer didn't back down an inch. The truth is that you're so consumed with controlling your narrative that you've forgotten how to have an authentic conversation. The truth is that you demand respect while showing none to others. And the truth is that right now, millions of people are watching you reveal exactly who you are when you can't control the script. The words hung in the air like an indictment. Meghan's breathing was visibly rapid, her perfectly styled hair slightly disheveled from her animated gestures. The mask had completely fallen away, and what remained was raw anger and wounded pride. This interview is over, Meghan declared, her voice shaking with fury. But Jennifer wasn't finished. Oh no, it's not over. Not until you answer one simple question. Meghan froze mid-step, her back still turned to Jennifer and the audience. The entire studio held its collective breath as Jennifer's words echoed through the space with the weight of a final ultimatum. Turn around and face me, Jennifer commanded, her voice carrying an authority that brooked no argument. You want to talk about respect? Then show some. Answer my question, and then you can leave. Slowly, Meghan turned back around, her face a mask of barely controlled fury mixed with something that looked suspiciously like fear. What question? Jennifer took a deep breath, knowing that what she was about to ask would either end this confrontation or escalate it beyond any point of return. Do you genuinely believe that your version of events is always the complete truth? Or do you know you've been manipulating narratives to serve your own interests? The question hung in the air like a sword waiting to drop. The studio audience was so quiet that the hum of the overhead lights seemed deafening. Camera operators adjusted their shots, sensing they were about to capture a moment that would be replayed millions of times across social media. Meghan's mouth opened and closed several times before any words came out. That's not. You can't just. That's an impossible question to answer. No, it's not, Jennifer pressed, taking a step closer. It's actually the simplest question in the world. Either you believe your own stories completely, which means you're delusional, or you know you've been spinning facts to make yourself look better, which means you're calculating. Which is it? The trap was perfectly set, and Meghan realized it. Her eyes darted around the studio as if looking for an escape route that didn't exist. The cameras were still rolling, the audience was watching every micro-expression, and Jennifer Hudson was staring at her with unwavering intensity. You're trying to make me look bad, Meghan finally said, her voice small, but still defiant. I'm not trying to make you look like anything, Jennifer replied firmly. I'm giving you an opportunity to be honest for once in your public life, to show people who you really are instead of this carefully constructed persona you've built. Meghan's composure finally shattered completely. You want to know who I really am? I'm someone who's been attacked and vilified for years for having the courage to speak my truth. I'm someone who's been subjected to racist coverage and harassment that you could never understand. There it is again, Jennifer said, shaking her head. Every single time someone challenges you, it becomes about racism or victimization. But that's not what this is about, and you know it. Of course you would say that, Meghan shot back, her voice rising to nearly a shout. You're so desperate to be accepted by the mainstream that you'll tear down another woman of color just to prove you're one of the good ones. The accusation hit the studio like a bomb. Several audience members audibly gasped, and even the production crew behind the cameras looked stunned by the viciousness of the attack. Jennifer's face went through a series of expressions, shock, hurt, and then pure rage. When she spoke, her voice was deadly calm. Did you just suggest that I'm some kind of sellout? That I'm betraying my race by holding you accountable for your actions? If the shoe fits, Meghan replied with a cruel smile that revealed just how much she was enjoying twisting the knife. That was the final straw. Jennifer's professional composure evaporated entirely. How dare you? How dare you suggest that asking you direct questions makes me a traitor to my own people? You don't get to hide behind your race every time someone calls you out on your behavior. I'm not hiding behind anything, Meghan screamed, all pretense of dignity abandoned. I'm stating facts. You're attacking me to curry favor with people who will never accept you anyway. Jennifer stepped forward until she was directly in front of Meghan, close enough that only the microphones picked up her next words. Let me tell you something about acceptance, Meghan. I've never needed anyone's permission to be who I am. I earned my place in this industry through talent, hard work, and integrity. Things you clearly know nothing about. Meghan's face contorted with rage. Integrity? You're ambushing me on live television and calling it journalism. You're nothing but a talk show host with delusions of grandeur. The insult was designed to wound, but it had the opposite effect. Jennifer actually smiled. Not a warm smile, but the kind of smile that meant someone had just made a fatal error. You're absolutely right, Jennifer said with dangerous calm. I am just a talk show host. But I'm a talk show host who built her career on authenticity. And right now, millions of people are watching you reveal exactly who you are when you can't control the narrative. Meghan looked around wildly, suddenly seeming to remember that this entire confrontation was being broadcast live. The reality of what she had just done, the mask she had just let slip, hit her with visible force. This is ridiculous, she said, but her voice lacked conviction. I'm not going to stand here and be attacked by someone who's clearly jealous of my success. Jealous? Jennifer laughed, but it wasn't a pleasant sound. Of what? A woman who married into a family she now spends all her time trashing? Someone who makes millions complaining about how hard her privileged life is? Trust me, there's nothing about your life that I envy. Meghan's hands were shaking now, whether from anger or the realization of how badly this had gone for her. You know what? I'm done. I'm absolutely done with this circus. She turned toward the exit, but Jennifer called after her one final time. Running away again? Just like you ran from your family, your first marriage, your acting career, and the royal family? That seems to be your pattern. When things get difficult or people expect accountability, you just disappear. Meghan spun around one last time, her face flushed and her voice cracking with emotion. You don't know me. You don't know anything about my life or my choices. You're right, Jennifer said with finality. I don't know you. But after tonight, I don't think anyone really does. The question is, do you even know yourself? Without another word, Meghan Markle stormed off the set, her heels clicking angrily against the studio floor. The cameras followed her exit until she disappeared behind the backstage curtains, leaving Jennifer Hudson standing alone in front of a stunned studio audience. For a moment, the silence was complete. Then, slowly, someone in the audience began to clap. Others joined in, and within seconds, the entire studio was erupting in applause. Not polite, talk show applause, but genuine, thunderous approval for what they had just witnessed. Jennifer stood there, breathing heavily, her professional mask slowly sliding back into place as she realized the cameras were still rolling. She walked back to her host chair, sat down, and looked directly into the camera with an expression of someone who had just fought a battle and emerged victorious. Well, she said, her voice still slightly shaky but regaining its professional tone. I think we've all learned something important tonight. Sometimes the most revealing interviews are the ones where the guest reveals more than they intended to. The studio audience continued their applause as Jennifer Hudson wrapped up what would undoubtedly go down as one of the most explosive moments in television history. The woman who had walked onto the set as a composed duchess had left as someone entirely different, and everyone had witnessed the transformation in real time.